What is going on, guys? I'm back with another regional prediction, this time for the Quebec, Canada regional that's coming up this weekend. As you guys know, not a lot has changed since the Los Angeles regional. We did have a huge representation of Kenshin, and I don't think it's going to change too much, although I do see some changes coming. As you guys know, Kenshin, I think might have been a little bit too overpowered when it came out. It's a very strong deck, and it has a lot of abilities that 90% of the other Union Arena decks don't have. In like the way it searches, the way that it mostly the way it searches is insane because it's so consistent. While other decks don't have cards that search, or look at the top cards and stuff like that. The only other deck that I do see have this kind of ability is Roy Mustang, which is why I have Roy up here as well. But the newer decks with the Roy and pretty much all the Kenshin decks, the amount of drawing and searching and just filtering is crazy compared to what Union Arena used to be. So for that reason, I think that's why it's so strong. But the only biggest change that I do see is that we now know how to play against Red Kenshin. So I think a lot of people did not know how to play going into the Los Angeles regional. And for that reason, I have Sato coming up with 6 spots out of the top 16. I do think it's a little bit of a counter pick to Red Kenshin. So for that reason, I have it at 6, and then Red Kenshin right below it at 5. So that's 13 out of, that's 11 out of the top 16 spots. I do know that a lot of people anticipate 14 or even 15 of the top decks to be Kenshin. Maybe even a blue one sneaking in there because it's sneaky good. But I don't think it's going to be quite that many because representation, Red Kenshin, yeah, might be the most represented deck. But I think it's still, now that we know how to play against it, it's still a little bit more beatable than we thought. But it is still very, very solid and a little bit of an uphill battle for most decks. So yeah, so for that reason, I also have Toto coming in at with 2, maybe even 3 spots, just because Toto is always like a counter pick to like pretty much every meta. And against Red Kenshin, it's fantastic. You move up the girls with one of their guys, and you're in a good spot because their double energies are very important. As well as against purple, they need to get it to 6, so you move up the double energies, and it's a little bit of a struggle. Toto is just not as consistent seeing those pieces, but when they do, it's just one of the best counter picks to like almost every deck. Roy Mustang, again, a deck that's very good and very consistent, draws a lot of cards, and has a lot of filtering. It's probably is the deck that has the most amount of draws, and and filtering. So for that reason, I got that up there with 2 tops, and then Bleach with sneaking in there with 1. So that is my top 16 prediction. It is unfortunate that we don't get the Bleach stuff. I don't think it's legal for this. It would have been nice to see a little bit of a shakeup, see if they maybe can sneak in another Bleach or like green Bleach or something in here, which still could, but with that new 12 cards, it might have been a little bit easier of time for it to get up there and more representation. And I'm not going to be at this regional, unfortunately, but I will try to get you guys coverage and get the top 16 breakdown and all that like I usually do, and get you guys the content. Hopefully there's content creators out there that get the content that I normally try to get, because I would love to see it personally. Even though Kaiju number 8 is coming out in like about a week or 2 after this regional, and I do have gameplay. I'm already starting that this weekend, so you guys are going to be able to see that on this channel as soon as this regional is over. Following days after that, I'm going to be putting, Kaiju and whatever the new other set is. I'm going to be trying to make content of that so you guys can see how the meta is going to change, and if it's going to be able to keep up with Kenshin. But yeah, if you guys have any other decks that you think will top that I'm missing here, let me know in the comments below. If you think that Kenshin is not as good as I have it here, or just way better than I have it here, then please let me know. Fight in the comments. But like I said, I do think Kenshin is very powerful, and hopefully we can see some variety. I don't think so, and maybe it needs to be addressed if it doesn't happen. If there's too much Kenshin, it's kind of a weird, because we've never had that in Union Arena other than pre-hitting something before it comes out. But I know that is something like the talk of the town is like, all right, so do we get an emergency ban? Do we get cards hit? What do we do when a deck is so powerful? As these Kenshin decks, and even probably the Roy Mustang deck, is very powerful compared to all the other Uni Arena decks, which for the most part have been pretty close in power, like 99% of them. So we're in a weird place here where it's like, do they make better cards for everything else and keep going in this, power creep, or do we like try to keep the same power level and nerf the current decks a little bit? You don't have to hit them crazy. It's still pretty even. It's just a little bit, that little bit makes a big difference in Union Arena. But yeah, if you guys have any more thoughts, any questions, please feel free to comment. Let me know. If you guys are going to the regional, feel free to message me. I would love to, talk with people that are going and maybe be able to get, the top 16 breakdown so I can put it up as soon as I can. I know that's what people want to see. So yeah, if you guys are going, hit me up. Otherwise, I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.